I put my game Couch Combat on Reddit, but I wasn't prepared for the response that I would get. Hello, my name is Levin, and I'm making a split-screen FPS called Couch Combat. The game has fast-paced rounds, a simple, low-poly art style, and takes inspiration from the great split-screen FPSs of old. Lately, I've been focusing on polishing up my game. The core gameplay is pretty much done, but there's still a lot in store for the game. More content, polish, and maybe even a massive new twist. But I'll talk more about that later in the video. This video is sponsored by Unity. Unity is the game engine that I'm creating the game in, and they are having a massive spring sale in the asset store. The asset store is home to many incredibly well-priced tools, pre-made assets, and all other sorts of things that can help you make your game. I personally use some of these assets to cover the things I'm not so good at as an indie developer, such as particle effects, skyboxes, and sound effects. Click the link in the description to save money and also help support the channel. The key to creating a good gameplay experience is having good gameplay, but it also helps if getting to this good gameplay isn't a terrible time. So over the past few devlogs, I've been focusing on improving the menus, UI, settings, and overall polish for my game, and so I just started out by implementing a few new improvements. The first one is something that I should have done a long time ago, but I made the spawn positions for each player point in a better direction. Before this change, you would often spawn staring out over the abyss, and if you had been moving around in a previous stage, you could very easily just walk off the stage as soon as you spawn. Now that's fixed. In the last devlog, I added a ton of guns to the game. We're talking miniguns, magic guns, guns that aren't guns at all but are actually a bow and arrow, and guns that tell you to wishlist my game on Steam. Wait. Couch Combat is available to wishlist on Steam, and you should do that. Wishlisting is free and the best way that you can support the channel. If you wishlist, then Steam will push the game more in the algorithm when I release it, and that is incredibly helpful for an indie developer like me who doesn't have any marketing budget. Also, I just released an update for the free demo on Steam, so you should check that out if you want to try out the game now. I have no idea why the gun that tells you to wishlist my game on Steam started telling you to wishlist my game on Steam. My bad. But back on topic, I added support for the new guns to actually be used in the game. In order to do this, I had to overhaul the game options menu to allow there to be multiple pages of guns. And while I was at it, I also fixed some issues with saving and loading between stages in the settings menu. And I also finally fixed the stupid bug where your audio levels would be reset every stage, which basically made it impossible to actually mute the game. But anyways, after this, I added transitions to Couch Combat. Instead of just cutting to the next scene and looking bad, I now have a couch silhouette that zooms in and then back out to where the new stage is loaded. This is managed by just having a new UI object that is always sent to the back of its parentage, so it can always be on top. And after adding this transition, I figured that I would go a step further and add a countdown to the beginning of each stage. To do this, I simply paused all input from every player at the beginning of each stage, played a little UI animation and some sounds, and then unpaused it. This initially led to a bug where the last frame of input from the previous game would carry over and stay for the whole countdown, which normally just led to you falling off a cliff at the very beginning of the game. So I fixed this by just setting all input to 0 whenever it pauses the input for the countdown, and that fixed it pretty well. Last devlog, I talked about adding new gimmicks to each area of my game. Basically, I want to make each area feel a bit more unique than the other ones, so I'm adding new objects and mechanics to the areas. I started by adding potions to the fantasy area last devlog, and so I started to make the second gimmick, a unique katana weapon which will sometimes spawn in the samurai area. The katana will spawn on a stand, which will always be in the same place in the samurai area, but the katana will not always spawn on the stage. If you pick up this katana, it'll allow you to perform a dash attack similar to Genji from Overwatch or the Mercenary from Risk of Rain 2. And I modeled, rigged, and animated this katana in Blender. It's a bit different than the other weapons as it has 2 attack animations and no reload animation. And I started importing it into the game as well, but I put it on the back burner for the rest of the week. Last devlog, I held a poll on my Discord server to let you guys decide what I should add to the game, and out of these options, you guys picked for me to finish out the boomer shotgun, so I did just that. The boomer shotgun is inspired by classic shooters like Doom, and it also gets its name from the fact that these games are called boomer shooters. The boomer is a 2D pixel art gun that works in a 3D world. Before this devlog, I had built the basis for it, but during this devlog, I really made it into a finished gun. I completed all the animations and got the gun to not clip for outlines, and I also made some sound effects using a combination of BFXR, which is a free program that generates retro sound effects, and also I use various gun sounds that I have in a pack, compressed and bass boost them in Audacity, and then I put them into an online bit crusher to get that retro sound. And I also used a voxel editor to make a 3D model for the pickup of the boomer. The boomer is really fun to use, and it also boosts your movement speed a bit, which is supposed to emulate the speedy movement seen in games like Quake and Doom. And as for this devlog's community poll, I have 3 options. Option 1 is to add new background animations to the main menu to liven it up. Option 2 is to overhaul all the gun sound effects and make them all more satisfying. And option number 3 is to overhaul the pickups and stop them from falling through the stage. If you want to vote, then join my Discord, link in the description. So I think my game is currently in a good position whenever it comes to polish, so I kinda wanna try something out. There's a subreddit called r/destroymygame. Basically, you post a video of your game, and then people give you really brutal criticism. So I'm gonna put couch combat on there. What's the worst that could happen? I can't believe it. These terrible people, they gave me harsh but constructive feedback on my game. How dare they? Reddit truly is filled with horrible people. The best way to beat them is to implement their suggestions and improve my game. That'll teach them. First off, most people complained about the stretched perspective whenever playing in 2-player mode, and personally I don't have an issue with it, but that's why you ask for feedback. So I'm going to add a setting that'll make it a bit smaller, but it'll have normal aspect ratios. A lot of people also mentioned that the game is lacking in screen shake and punch, so I'll add more screen shake and try to improve the sound effects as well. And people also mentioned that 1v1 is kinda boring in the game, which I had to begrudgingly agree with. The game, like many other local multiplayer games, really does better with the chaos and slightly longer rounds that 4-player split screen brings. I'm not certain what the solution to this is at the moment. And finally, some people mentioned that the text at the end of each round is really goofy and fun, but there isn't really much other humor like that in the game. So I'm planning on interjecting more of that into the game. But the biggest and most common piece of feedback that I received was the game was just kinda basic. It just lacked a big twist or core gameplay feature to really set it apart from other shooters, split screen or otherwise. And honestly, I totally agree with this, and it's been on my mind for quite a while, as evidenced by this creatively named task on Trello called Need a Hook for the Game, which I made over a month before posting on Reddit. I need something that will not only set the game apart, but also provide better flow to individual rounds. I've thrown around a few ideas for what this could be, ranging from upgrades like in the game rounds, or some sort of long-term gameplay that ties it all together, kinda like a Mario Party board, or even just modifiers that change up things between rounds. And now, I really like the idea of modifiers, and I totally plan on adding a bunch, but I don't think that's enough to set the game apart, so solving this is my #1 task right now. I am open to any suggestions in the comments, but next devlog is going to be all about this twist, because I need to come up with what it should be and then get to planning and doing it as soon as possible. So to finish this whole Reddit thing off, I'm going to post my game again, after making all the changes I've listed here, and I will absolutely crush those haters by listening to their feedback and making changes to my game. Yeah, that'll show them. And thank you to Unity for sponsoring this video. And a very special shout out to my Pateron Howard House. I've heard that whenever he goes swimming in the oceans, the shark hear the Jaws theme being played as he approaches. Bye.